I drop bombs like Hiroshima.
Somebody said, look at LeakYou video. What the fuck is LeakYou? Is it like a site? What's LeakYou? LeakYou. Is it a YouTube channel? Oh, shit. Oh, all right, bet. Here we go.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
One, two, three, four.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are across the world today. Welcome to everyone that is coming into the live stream. As you all know, Jeffrey Epstein, there's been a lot of conversation about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files, and the Department of Justice has been doing has made three, massive file dumps regarding Jeffrey Epstein, which is something that the world has been asking for years. Okay, we've been dang near begging for the world or for the Department of Justice to drop the files, release the Epstein files. Unfortunately, a lot of people are named in these files, and Donald J. Trump is one of them. Now, along with the fact that I do, and will be doing live streams where we're actually going to be going into these massive file dumps, discovering because listen, these dumps are so large. No one has been able to go through all of them yet. Okay. No one. So, with that said, it's a great opportunity for us to be able to go through these, these files live. Let's just do it together, right? And so note that you will be seeing live streams pop up where, I will be, and we're just going to do Epstein files, episode 1, episode 2, and so on and so on. Now, with that all being said, what I want to focus on today is a story that TMZ actually dropped yesterday. But let's be really clear. This is something that I have talked about specifically for 10 years. I am referring to a woman who goes by the name Katie Johnson. Okay. Katie Johnson sued Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein back in 2016. And I was reporting on it in 2016 when it happened. Not only did Katie Johnson sue Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein for depriving her civil rights and for sexual abuse, There's been other lawsuits, as you all may or may not know. Here's something that seemed to have gone under the radar. Number one, this particular incident / lawsuit that Katie Johnson filed against Donald Trump. Again, I was reporting on this before Donald Trump's first term in office. Published the video of an interview that was done with Katie Johnson and everything. And somehow it just seemed to just scoot up under the radar. And Donald Trump was elected president. And he is now doing his second term in office. And it is no secret that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were great friends. Great friends. It's even rumored that Donald Trump met his wife Melania, allegedly, through Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein's tentacles ran deep. I mean, this guy even, very closely affiliated with Prince Andrew, the brother of King Charles of the United Kingdom. His tentacles run extremely deep. When we talk about Epstein Island, Bill Clinton's been there, Bill Gates, Pusha T, Donald Trump. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on of people that have been to Epstein Island. Okay. But again, my focus in this particular live stream, we are going to talk about Katie Johnson, and we're going to review this. TMZ decided, and I'm sure they heard about this in 2016, because I know for a fact there are producers at TMZ that follow my platform. So as much as they pay attention to things, and I know that, I know that they follow my platform. So I'm pretty sure that someone over there has been aware of this since 2016, but through probably legal reasons, Harvey Levin is an attorney, it was not published. But it was yesterday. And the story that TMZ posted, and specifically, give me just a second, was about it within the Epstein files, in the latest dump, in this third dump. Okay, there is a portion within the files that talks about this incident with Katie, including the lawsuit that she filed against Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And it's crazy, it's unbelievable and somewhat crazy to me that it's just now in 2025 it's finally hit the mainstream. Now, I made a community post and I tagged several YouTubers. Please know that I don't typically do that. I'm not one that goes around tagging content creators or YouTubers, but I tagged the people that I felt needed to know about this particular incident, this one in particular, because it finally has hit the mainstream. And I tagged people that I felt may give a damn, okay, that may actually care about this story. And so, like I said, TMZ finally, it's hit the mainstream finally, but that is only because of these file dumps that the DOJ has finally started doing. Now, Donald Trump is being directly accused, all right, in the latest file dumps. His name is all throughout documents in this latest file dump by the Department of Justice. Okay. His name's all throughout. And Donald Trump's response is to point us back to that standard statement that he's pointed us to in the last couple of file dumps, in which he really emphasizes that this, there's a lot of stuff in there, and a lot of stuff that's not factual, people making things up, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, Donald Trump is saying this is fake, this is made up, this isn't true. But here's the thing. By him doing that, it's like he's dismissing what Epstein did overall in his actions and behavior and his recruitment of underage girls. This guy was the head of a massive child sex trafficking ring. But, even though it's been 10 years, I'm glad that it's finally hit mainstream. But I think it's important that we get into the weeds of this particular story. This is regarding Katie Johnson, the 13-year-old girl that accused both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of having sexual contact with her. Even said that Donald Trump slapped her in the face during a sexual incident. Said he slapped her. She said he slapped her. Now, what I want to do first here is I want you to see the actual complaint that Katie Johnson's attorney filed when she sued Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, which is what you currently see on the screen here. I want to take you through this, and then I have an exclusive video that I'm going to show you of Katie Johnson herself. She did an interview, and she went into more depth and talked about this situation. Again, Katie Johnson was 13 years old. And let me tell you something. Katie Johnson's not the only 13-year-old either. We're talking about a massive child sex ring. And for those of you that have done your research on the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein, in just Jeffrey Epstein alone, you know that was his thing. He ran a massive child sex trafficking ring. He had young girls. He was recruiting young girls, even recruiting young girls from Mar-a-Lago. See, Donald Trump claims that he stopped his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein after he found out that Jeffrey Epstein was recruiting the females at Mar-a-Lago and turning them out and having them come down to Epstein Island to please the tricks that he hired. Okay. So let's start here with the actual complaint. Again, this is the actual complaint that was filed. Now, Katie Johnson is not her real name. This is a name that she uses because you all know that if she came out here and actually gave her real name, you know what would happen. This girl could potentially end up dead. Okay. So let's start. So again, Katie Johnson, plaintiff versus Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And the complaint is for claim relief due to 1, sexual abuse under threat of harm, and 2, conspiracy to deprive civil rights. Now, my goal here is to go specifically into the allegations. And then we're going to go into the actual interview that Katie gave. It is the only interview that Katie has ever given. Okay? So, this is what Katie Johnson filed in court. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges that the defendants, Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein, did willfully and with extreme malice violate her civil rights under 18 U.S.C. 2241 by sexually and physically abusing plaintiff Johnson by forcing her to engage in various perverted and depraved sex acts, by threatening physical harm to plaintiff Johnson and also her family. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges that the defendants, Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein, also did willfully and with extreme malice violate her civil rights by conspiring to deny plaintiff Johnson her civil rights by making her their sex slave. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges she was subject to extreme sexual and physical abuse by the defendants, Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, including forcible rape during a 4-month time span covering the months of June through September 1994, when plaintiff Johnson was still only a minor of age 13. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, alleges she was enticed by promises of money and a modeling career to attend a series of underage sex parties held at the New York City residence of defendant Jeffrey E. Epstein and attended by defendant Donald J. Trump, your president, as Willie D would say. Shout out to Willie D. On the first occasion involving the defendant, Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was forced to manually stimulate defendant Trump with the use of her hand upon defendant Trump's erect penis until he reached sexual orgasm. On the second occasion involving the defendant, Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was forced to orally copulate defendant Trump by placing her mouth upon defendant Trump's erect penis until he reached sexual orgasm. On the third occasion involving the defendant, Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was forced to engage in an unnatural lesbian sex act with her fellow minor and sex slave, Maria Doe, age 12, for the sexual enjoyment of defendant Trump. After this sex act, both minors were forced to orally copulate defendant Trump by placing their mouths simultaneously on his erect penis until he achieved sexual orgasm. After zipping up his pants, defendant Trump physically pushed both minors away while angrily berating them for the poor quality of their sexual performance. I don't know what he expects from a 12 and a 13-year-old girl. You know? It's not like they're 35-year-old experienced hookers, you know? But let me continue. On the fourth and final sexual encounter with the defendant, Donald J. Trump, the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was tied to a bed by defendant Trump, who then proceeded to forcibly rape plaintiff Johnson. During the course of this savage sexual attack, Plaintiff Johnson loudly pleaded with defendant Trump to please wear a condom. Donald Trump responded by violently striking Plaintiff Johnson in the face with his open hand and screaming that he, quote, he would do whatever he wanted, end quote, as he refused to wear protection. After achieving sexual orgasm, the defendant, Donald J. Trump, put his suit back on. And when the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, in tears, asked defendant Trump what would happen if he had impregnated her, defendant Trump grabbed his wallet and threw some money at her and screamed that she should use the money to, quote, get a fucking abortion, end quote. On the first occasion, involving the defendant Jeffrey E. Epstein, the plaintiff Katie Johnson was forced to disrobe into her bra and panties and to give a full body massage to defendant Epstein while he was completely naked. During the massage, defendant Epstein physically forced plaintiff Johnson to touch his erect penis with her bare hands and to clean up his ejaculated semen after he achieved sexual orgasm. On the second occasion, involving the defendant Jeffrey Epstein, the plaintiff Katie Johnson was again forced to disrobe into her bra and panties while giving defendant Epstein a full body massage while he was completely naked. The defendant, Donald J. Trump, was also present as he was getting his own massage from another minor, Jane Doe, age 13. Defendant Epstein forced plaintiff Johnson to touch his erect penis by physically placing her bare hands upon his sex organ and again forced plaintiff Johnson to clean up his ejaculated semen after he achieved sexual orgasm. Shortly after this sexual assault by the defendant, Jeffrey E. Epstein, on the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, plaintiff Johnson was still present while the two defendants were arguing over who would be the one to take plaintiff Johnson's virginity. The defendant, Donald J. Trump, was clearly heard referring to defendant Jeffrey E. Epstein as a, quote, Jew bastard, as he yelled at defendant Epstein that clearly he, defendant Trump, should be the lucky one to, quote, pop the cherry of plaintiff Johnson. Remember, guys, she was only 13 years old. The third and final sexual assault by the defendant, Jeffrey E. Epstein, on the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, took place after plaintiff Johnson had been brutally and savagely raped by defendant Trump. While receiving another full-body massage from plaintiff Johnson while in the nude, defendant Epstein became so enraged after finding out that defendant Trump had been the one to take plaintiff Johnson's virginity that defendant Epstein also violently raped plaintiff Johnson. After forcing plaintiff Johnson to disrobe into her bra and panties while receiving a massage from the plaintiff, defendant Epstein attempted to enter plaintiff Johnson's anal cavity with his erect penis while trying to restrain her. Plaintiff Johnson attempted to push defendant Epstein away, at which time defendant Epstein attempted to enter plaintiff Johnson's vagina with his erect penis. This attempt to brutally sodomize and rape plaintiff Johnson by defendant Epstein was finally repelled by Plaintiff Johnson, but not before Defendant Epstein was able to achieve sexual orgasm. After perversely sodomizing and raping the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, the defendant, Jeffrey E. Epstein, attempted to strike her about the head with his closed fists while he angrily screamed at Plaintiff Johnson that he, defendant Epstein, should have been the one who took her cherry, not Mr. Trump, before she finally managed to break away from defendant Epstein. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was fully warned on more than one occasion by both defendants Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein that were she ever to reveal any of the details of the sexual and physical abuse that she had suffered as a sex slave for defendant Trump and defendant Epstein, that plaintiff Johnson and her family would be in mortal danger. Plaintiff Johnson was warned that this would mean certain death for herself and Plaintiff Johnson's family unless she remained silent forever on the exact details of the depraved and perverted sexual and physical abuse she had been forced to endure from the defendants. And Katie Johnson has witnesses, guys. Tiffany Doe, a former trusted employee of defendant Jeffrey E. Epstein, has agreed to provide sworn testimony in this civil case and any other future civil or criminal proceedings, fully verifying the authenticity of the claims of the plaintiff, Katie Johnson. Witness Tiffany Doe was employed by the defendant, Jeffrey E. Epstein, for more than 10 years as a party planner for his underage sex parties. 10 years, people. He was into these sex parties so deep, he hired a party planner. And this lady worked for him for 10 years, a full decade. Take that in for a moment. Despite being subject to constant terroristic threats by defendants Epstein and Trump to never reveal the details of these underage sex parties at which scores of teenagers and preteen girls were used as sex slaves by defendant Epstein and defendant Trump, witness Tiffany Doe refuses to be silent any longer. She has agreed to fully reveal the extent of the sexual perversion and physical cruelty that she personally witnessed at these parties by defendants Epstein and Trump. Material witness Tiffany Doe fully confirms all of plaintiff Katie Johnson's allegations of physical and sexual abuse by defendants Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey E. Epstein. Tiffany Doe was physically present at each of the 4 occasions of sexual abuse by defendant Trump upon the person of plaintiff Johnson, as it was her job to witness all of the sexual escapades of defendant Epstein's guests at these underage sex parties, and later reveal all of these sordid details directly to defendant Epstein. Defendant Epstein also demanded that Tiffany Doe tell him personally everything she had overheard at these parties, explaining to her that knowledge was king in the financial world. As a result of these underage sex parties, defendant Epstein was able to accumulate inside business knowledge that he otherwise would never have been privy to in order to amass his huge personal fortune. Material witness Tiffany Doe will testify that she was also present or or had direct knowledge of each of the 3 instances on which defendant Jeffrey E. Epstein physically and sexually abused the plaintiff, Katie Johnson. Tiffany Doe will testify to the fact that the plaintiff, Katie Johnson, was extremely fortunate to have survived all of the physical and sexual horrors inflicted upon her by defendants Epstein and Trump. The plaintiff, Katie Johnson, asked the court for relief against the defendants, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, in the amount of $100 million as a result of the defendants' acts upon which they willfully and maliciously violated her civil rights. And by making her their sex slave. Okay. That is the actual complaint. Now, there's something else that you need to see. Katie, through her legal fund and her trust, released this video. And I published this 10 years ago. Like I said, before Donald Trump before his first term in office. You know, the grab her by the pussy video came out. Remember that by Inside Edition? I published this video. A couple other people also published this video. But it didn't seem to get any traction. And it didn't matter, what Donald Trump did. People still voted for him. He even said once that he could go to, in the middle of Times Square and shoot somebody dead and would get away with it. Okay? This guy that's absolutely dividing our country right now with a lot of the actions that he's doing. Now, you all know that today, finally, the photos of Jeffrey Epstein lying dead in his cell and CPR being attempted on him was also released. This was part of this file dump by the Department of Justice. But I'm going to be honest with you. These photos don't prove that he was not murdered. Okay. So you've got that breaking news that dropped a couple of hours ago. We're talking about around 20 photos that were released of Epstein receiving CPR, pictures of his cell, his messy cell, pictures of the rope that he created out, what it appeared to look like he had created this cloth out, this thin strip of cloth out of like an orange uniform of some type. And this is what he used. It looked like, if we're believing the suicide story, that he tied this cloth around the top portion of the bed frame. So it's not like he put it up so high that his feet didn't touch the ground. We're talking about the type of suicide where unalivement where he would have had to have forcefully went into some sort of seating type position. And his hyoid bone was broken. But again, these photos don't prove that he wasn't murdered. And on top of that, along with those images, we've got images of Prince Andrew, or I should say former Prince Andrew, now known as Andrew Mountbatten, doing creepy stuff. We're talking about actual photos of him lording over women that are lying on the floor, touching all on her, you know? Again, there's so much data in these file dumps. It's going to take months to go through it. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Okay. We got Melania, Donald Trump's wife, her director, Brett Ratner, spooning a woman on the couch with Jeffrey Epstein. Got his arms wrapped all over behind her. Like this. And then listen to this. We even have information about one of Donald Trump's friends who's so weird that he had sex with Marla Maples, which is Donald Trump's second wife, I believe. Yeah, his second wife. Having sex with her red high heel shoe. I mean, these people got problems. They got problems. Like, yeah, you heard me right. Having sex with a shoe because it belonged to Marla Maples. Listen. You can't make this stuff up. The only person who seems to be being held accountable for any of this has been Ghislaine Maxwell, who's a good friend of Prince formerly, it's hard to say, I got to get used to saying Andrew Mountbatten now, but Prince Andrew, great friend of Prince Andrew, lover of Jeffrey Epstein, great friend of Donald Trump. But you notice Donald Trump, he hasn't given her a pardon. He pardoned all those people that went down and pulled that nonsense when he was, leaving office the first time. And, just he pardoned all of those people. He's not going to touch Ghislaine Maxwell with a 10-foot pole. She will never get a pardon. If she does, it will be the very last day that Donald Trump is in office. I promise you that. But what's interesting and something that we need to ask ourselves after seeing the behavior of Donald Trump when he left office the first time, do you think he's going to leave office willingly once this term is up? Now, I want to be clear before we take a look at this video that this is the news article that TMZ actually dropped. Okay. And when I seen it, I was like, finally. I've only been talking about this for a decade. I mean, I have done at least 5 or 6 videos on this, right? And the way TMZ reported this was, underage girl claims Trump forced oral sex. Bombshell allegation in the latest Epstein Files document release. An underage girl claims she was forced to perform oral sex on Donald Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The allegation is from a document in the files, okay, that describes a tip that was sent to the feds. The complaint summary says the feds were told the underage girl was approximately 13 to 14 years old when the alleged incident occurred, and it says the alleged victim allegedly bit President Trump while performing oral sex and was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting President Trump. Your president. The documents say the feds forwarded the lead to the Washington office to conduct an interview. Listen, Donald Trump, there's a video clip out there of Donald Trump bragging about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and how he loves girls on the younger side. Another allegation, which the feds deemed not credible, is from a female who claimed she was she was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verde, California, between 1995 and 1996, involving big orgy parties with young girls, older Victoria's Secret models, and celebs like Trump, Bill Clinton, and Robin Leach. The documents say the feds got a call from a female who claimed to be a prisoner, and they referenced Lisa Marie Presley, the British royal family, which we know that's true because Prince Andrew has very much so been involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. The feds say they were unable to contact the woman who lived in Australia. So that's the only reason why that accusation wasn't deemed credible, because they couldn't reach the woman. Another allegation is from a woman who claims she was 13 years old and pregnant in 1984 when she was forced to perform oral sex acts. She told the Fed she was sex trafficked by high-profile individuals and that Trump regularly paid her money to force her to perform sex acts. She also alleged Trump was present when her uncle murdered her newborn child. The Fed say they were unable to contact the woman. A different caller, who the feds was unable to make contact with, alleged that a friend thought she had been raped by Trump in 1987 at Trump Plaza. There you see Donald Trump, his wife Melania, Jeffrey E. Epstein, and his lover Ghislaine Maxwell, who is in prison right now for recruiting young girls for Jeffrey Epstein and his parties. Another caller, who the feds say did not leak contact information, claims Trump had parties at Mar-a-Lago called, quote, calendar girls, where Epstein would bring children and Trump would auction them off. The caller claimed Trump measured the girls' vulvas and vaginas by penetrating them with his finger and rating them based on tightness. The caller alleged party guests included Elon Musk, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump, Alan Dershowitz, and Bob Shapiro. And, Alan Dershowitz is a very, very famous attorney. Very famous attorney. Little nerdy looking guy. When I heard his name pop up, because, I always enjoyed watching him on some of these true crime shows, listening to some of his legal analysis. And then I heard about this and I was like, wow. The caller claimed she and others were taken into rooms and forced to give oral sex to Trump. And she alleged they were forced to allow them to penetrate us. She claimed she was 13 when Trump raped her and that Ghislaine Maxwell was present. Now, here's the statement that Donald Trump keeps pointing everybody to. Every time his name comes up, this is the statement he points him to. Quote, this production may include fake or falsely submitted images, documents, or videos, as everything that was sent to the FBI by the public was included in the production that is responsive to the act. What? Huh? Okay. Some of the documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false, and if they had a shred of credibility. They certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. That was his statement in this latest drop. But listen, it has been weaponized against Trump. This has been talked about for years now. Look, you can tell how young Donald Trump was back then, hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, right? We know they had a significantly close relationship. And this is just a photo from the document dump where you can see there's a lot of things retracted with the black bars, but you can see, Black Bar reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly bit President Trump while performing oral sex. The friend was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting President Trump, and the friend said she was also abused by Epstein. And the response spoke with caller who identified, name blacked out, as friend. Lead was sent to Washington office to conduct interview. And then, a whole bunch of retracted, information. Okay. Whole lot of retracted info. So now, now that we've actually read the complaint from Katie Johnson, I want you all to watch this and listen to this. This is Katie Johnson. Her face is blurred out for her safety. But it's important that the whole world sees this.
I came to this interview on my free will. No, there was nothing promised to me for doing this interview.
Excellent.
Yes, everything that I say at this interview will be the truth. I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump. I was 13. The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance. And he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job. And at first I wasn't very comfortable with it. This was like my first party. And I didn't think that was my responsibility. But my recruiter told me that I needed to do it. So I agreed to. And then he, I began to, sorry, this is a little difficult, but before I gave him a hand job, he kind of slapped my hand away and said, you need to use a glove. And the recruiter ran over and handed me a glove and said, no one touches Mr. Trump's penis without a glove. So I needed to use a glove. I gave him a hand job. And then immediately after, he had an orgasm, he left, and I didn't see him again at that party. Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire friend of Donald Trump's that was responsible for throwing the sex parties. I originally came to New York trying to be a model, and in my travels, I met a girl named Tiffany there who was very interested in me and said that, that's what she did, is that she helped girls, get what they wanted. And she could help me get into modeling, that she knew a lot of people that were higher ups and that it would be no problem. And so that's why, but I would just basically have to come model at a couple of events and meet some people. There would be no sweat. So, of course I went, that sounded like no big deal. And she was recruiting the girls to come to these parties. And they all looked, I mean, most of them were, my age. There was, maybe a couple girls that were maybe 14 or 15, but it seemed to me like we were all very young. So,
Okay.
Jeffrey Epstein knew that I was 13 years old. When he interviewed me, he asked me to get down to my bra, just my panties, and I thought that was weird. But I mean, modeling, maybe it was something about my figure. And he asked that I give him a massage. So and then he asked me my age. He asked me, and I told him, told him that I was 13. I told him why I was there. And he basically said, well, you'll do, I'm sure that you'll fit pretty nicely here. And then he tried to basically slip himself inside of me. And I pushed him away, and I said, I'm because at that point in time, I still believed that there was models, and then there was the girls that did that. Like, I thought there was a separation. So, I told him that I wasn't interested in that, but he said that I would do. And as far as Donald Trump, he knew that I was 13, and I believe that Tiffany told him he seemed to take a liking to me because I was I was so young, and I was also a virgin. So I don't know. It seemed like he wasn't really into having girls that were liked by the other guys. He kind of, the whole glove thing, he kind of liked things to be his first, if that, for lack of, a better term, but he was the one who wanted to get to a girl before everyone else did. Donald Trump knew that I was 13 because the first night that I was there, Tiffany actually suggested that she had a whole bunch of different wigs, and I expressed interest in them. I always told her that I would love to walk around with blue hair, and so I tried some on, and there was a blonde wig that she said that looked great on me. So I wore that wig, and Donald Trump had specifically asked about me because I remind him of his daughter. And she said, well, she's 13 as well. So he knew the first time that he saw me, but he took a liking to me because I look like his daughter. And the reason I'm coming out now is when it happened originally, I just wanted to forget about the whole incident. And when I saw that he was running for president, I felt that it was my responsibility to come out and tell our country what kind of man this person is. I don't think that he should even be the dog catcher, let alone running the greatest country in the world. After I met Tiffany at the bus station, she took me to, basically went to her house, her apartment, and got ready. I put on a blonde wig because it seemed fun to pretend to be so indifferent, but we went to the party that I was basically interviewing for, and Jeffrey Epstein was the one that was running the party. He had a quick meeting with everyone that was employed there, and then he had a private interview with me. The first time that I met Jeffrey Epstein, he did try to force himself inside of me without getting the go-ahead or anything. And then it was probably about the third or fourth party is when he basically forced, it was another massage, and it was basically like, it wasn't sex, but there was penetration, and I told him that I didn't want that, but he kind of got a little irritated. So I don't know, there was something about him that I guess I kind of held him, I held a lot of resentment towards him. By that time that happened, I kind of already started catching on that maybe I wasn't there for modeling, and maybe I was just getting used for things, and I felt that kind of held him responsible. I did receive money to go to these parties. After every party, I was paid by Mr. Epstein. There wasn't Out of all the girls that were there with me, most of them were 13, 14. I think the oldest one might have been 16, just turned 16. And she'd been there for a while. It was Tiffany. He liked to watch other people have sex. He's a germ, doesn't like germs. So he, rather than partaking, he just watches. So, and Tiffany had informed him that I was the virgin. And so I was basically, so it was Tiffany who introduced us.
Okay.
Second time that I saw Mr. Trump was same scenario. He was onlooking at an orgy, and Tiffany came over to me and said that Donald Trump had requested that I perform oral sex on him, and I'd never done something like that with anybody, so I was a little nervous. So I walked up to him, and he was sitting there very proud, and I just kind of moved in that direction, and he kind of slapped me away and said, "What are you doing? You need to put a condom on," like I was some dirty filth or something without a condom. Tiffany ran over and handed him a condom and apologized, profusely, and said that would never happen again. And she looked at me and scolded me basically like a child and said that, that's not how, Donald Trump always, anytime you touch his penis, it needs to have a condom on or a glove, and especially when it comes to performing oral sex. So I apologized, and then I performed oral sex on him. And once he was done, he hopped up, and that's the last I saw of him at that party. It's like, once he's done, he's out. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay.
Sometimes some of the things that I noticed that were weird with him was sometimes before the parties, he would come over, and Jeffrey Epstein and himself would kind of banter back and forth. And he was Donald Trump was very racist. He said a lot of racist things. Like there was a lot of comments towards Mr. Epstein about, being Jewish, and called him a Jew bastard, so that he was cheap. And there was some words I didn't even understand, something about the shape of his penis being directly related to his mole, or I'm not too familiar with the Jewish tradition, so, but I'm pretty sure that whatever he was saying wasn't very nice. Also referred to people of Hispanic or Hispanic name, they called them spics. That was around the first time that the World Trade Center had gotten the bombed in the 90s. And he was, talking about the towel heads and how, we would just be better off if we, didn't let him in, or, basically got rid of every single one that was already here. And I felt it made me really uncomfortable, really, really uncomfortable. He also loved to call Black people, niggers, and Arabic people he called sand niggers. The only time that he tried to give me some money was our last encounter together, where he acted out a rape fantasy. I was forced to give that money back because Jeffrey Epstein paid us after the party. So, but he just gave me the money. I don't even know why he gave it to me. Maybe to make me feel more cheap. But it was a rape fantasy to him. But I wasn't playing. So there was those 2 times, and then there was after the next thing that Tiffany approached me with was that he had a fantasy where he walked in on his maids basically making out, and that it was some type of fantasy for him. So she asked, at that point I was like, I don't want to be involved with anything that has to do with him. But she's like, you are just basically the other one. So there's nothing that you will have to do. Just don't, he's requesting you to be involved. So I reluctantly, I felt like I didn't have a choice there, but it was basically he's walking in, his two maids. I was one of the maids. I was the white maid. And there was a Spanish girl, Maria, who was the Hispanic maid. And we were making out, and he walks in and he gets really angry and threatens to call immigration on Maria if she doesn't come over and make things right and give him a blowjob. So while she is over there giving him a blowjob, I am just trying to, I'm supposed to look scared, like, oh no, and cleaning up things and pretending like I'm trying to go back to my job as a maid. And then he's being so rude to Maria. I felt so bad for her. Even though I guess it just didn't seem like a fantasy. It didn't seem like it's the weirdest fantasy as far as that. He was threatening to call immigration on her, so that she didn't know how to, she wasn't even near going down to give him, perform oral sex on him before he slapped her away and said, what are you doing? You need to put a condom on. And she's trying to, I'm so sorry. And he's like, you can't even understand what you're saying. And just, speak English, he called her derogatory comments. And then he's like, you know what? You don't know what you're doing. Have her come over and show you how it's done. And so I said that I didn't, I had to go over there or else he was going to call immigration on Maria. I didn't know if it was true or not, but I felt that, he said that if I didn't show her how to perform oral sex on him, then he was going to call immigration on her and then get rid of us both. It was anything that was in relation to him getting off or being satisfied or happy had to do with him being in power, but extreme power. And it's very hard to even, it was always intimidating when he was like that. It was always, you didn't really know if it was true or, like if you refused to play along, would he really call immigration on Maria? Would he really get rid of us both? And I didn't even want to know what that meant. I always didn't, it wasn't a game. It just felt like it wasn't a game. Yeah. The one night that I had the blonde wig on, he mentioned that I looked like, that I reminded him of his daughter. And actually the maid fantasy, I didn't have a blonde wig on. I was trying to stay away from blonde wigs at the time. But he actually told Tiffany that that's what he wanted me to wear. Like he wanted it. And anytime I put it on, anytime I had it on and he'd see me, he would say, oh man, you look, and it wasn't like oh, you remind me of my daughter. It was this sick, evil, like, you remind me of my daughter. It was just this weird pleasure, sick smile. Like I don't even want to know what he was thinking about. I could imagine what he was thinking about. After the parties would end, we were to report to Mr. Epstein and basically tell him everything that happened, with who, what they liked, what they disliked, if there was any requests, if there was any talk about anything. That's what, we told Mr. Epstein everything. And then he paid us, and then we got to go home. And most with me, I would either, I normally got taken to the airport, so to go back home. The fact that Trump has a chance to be the next president makes me feel disgusting inside. I've always been proud to be an American. I think we live in a beautiful country, but I just see him ruining everything. He's a horrible, what he portrays on the outside isn't even that great, but people don't even know the half of how evil, how sick and twisted that man is. I have a friend that's been my friend ever since the school year that I stopped going, you know, the 8th grade. I confided her, and she knows all about it. She knows everything. I mean, I destroyed everything of, like, you know, any planes. I couldn't risk my dad finding out. And now I think I'm old enough to where I don't think, you know, at that point I didn't want to not be his little girl. You know, I didn't want to lose my dad. Basically, I would never, as far as keeping proof of any of the trips, the only person, I never told my parents, you know, there would be no happy, you know, there would be no good outcome of telling my parents. You know, they would have grounded me. I would have never been allowed out of the house. You know, my father would have come unglued. I did tell a friend, she's still my best friend to this day. She knows everything. She knows it all. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to save the country that I believe that we have. I know what he does behind like closed doors. Like, if that's all, I'm willing to sacrifice my life to put our country back in the right, like going maybe in some type of positive direction. Not even, there's no right or wrong, but a positive direction. This guy's not going to take us anywhere positive. You know, as far as my life changing by coming out with this information, I've thought long and hard about whether or not I should. And I've gone back and forth. But I think that I think that the American people need to know what kind of man this person is. And if my life changes because of that, then so be it. But the American people need to know what they're dealing with. If I had the chance to talk to Donald Trump, I would run the other way. I'm scared of him like I've never been scared of anything else in my entire life. I can't explain it to you, but the fear of him even being in a next room, I have a panic attack. The last encounter that I had with Donald Trump, Tiffany approached me about a rape scene that was supposed to be played out, and I didn't like the sound of that at all. But Tiffany promised, assured me that it wasn't going to be, if it was anything I wasn't comfortable with, we could stop. That she would be right there, and that it wouldn't get out of hand, and that it was a fantasy, like it wasn't really going to happen. And so I told her that I would. She basically, Tiffany was always nice to me. It wasn't that I trusted her, else and I wouldn't always trusted her or done what she asked me to. But she was there, and he came in, and I was basically tied to a bed with pantyhose, and he tied him. They were so tight, it hurt to even like lay there. And I tried to say something, and it was like, he just, shut up, shut up, bitch. It was basically like he was being really, really rough. And I understand. It just didn't seem like a fantasy. And I started to get scared, and he was, basically like ripping my clothes off, and I was actually I got freaked out. I told him that I didn't want to do this. I screamed over for Tiffany. She was like, Mr. Trump, she's only, this is scaring her. And he's like, oh, you shut up too. He just turned into this animal. It was like a completely different person. It was like everyone in the room was scared of him. And I was, it was like I couldn't do anything about it. And he ripped off all my clothes, and he started to basically have sex with me, and I was screaming because I'd never had sex before. It was my first time, and Tiffany was yelling at him too. She was saying that I was a virgin, and he told us to just shut the fuck up, and just basically took my virginity while I was crying and telling him to stop. And that's basically begging for him to just stop. And Tiffany didn't know what else to do either. No one was there to help us, or me. And so after the fact, he basically finishes it. It didn't take that long at all. I mean, but it felt like it was like 5.5 hours. It felt like it was an eternity. Like, I don't even know how long it was, but he was done, and I was crying, and Tiffany was consulting me, and she was, apologizing. She told me that she just never put me in that situation again. But he comes over mad because I was crying, and he said that I should be thankful that someone like Donald Trump took my virginity. He basically didn't say took my virginity. He said, I should be glad that someone like Donald Trump popped my cherry and not some pimply little 14-year-old. And I just was like, what if I said, what if I get pregnant? Not even talking to him. I didn't want to talk to him. I was talking to Tiffany. And he said, well, you'll get an abortion then, bitch. And then just walked away. And I asked, I told Tiffany I needed to go home. I never went back again. I guess it's for you to decide, I mean, if I don't have any kids myself, because I'm afraid to have kids, because who knows what kind of damage they can get into. But if you have a 13-year-old daughter and would you be okay with the person who's running our country doing that to your little girl? And I don't know. I just want people to know. I think that I have a faith in our society that will make the right choice. He seemed to be taking great pleasure in like dominance and control, and just the more I screamed, the more I got scared, the more he was enraged and enraged with power, and it was like he was just charged with it. It was scary. My experience with Donald Trump has made it to where I can't be in a healthy relationship, much less I can't be in a relationship without myself sabotaging it. I don't do well. I've been in a couple of relationships. They're never of interest to me normally, but one in particular that was he was a wonderful man, and I completely knowing I had like subconsciously I couldn't even control myself. It was like I had to get him out of my life because I don't know why. It was like anytime anyone loves me, I don't feel worth it, or I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I can't. Friends, I can have acquaintance that guys that are acquaintances, but I just anytime it's maybe someone expressed anything else besides that, I can't. I take some type of pleasure, I don't take pleasure in it, but subconsciously, whether I mean to or not, sometimes I've meant to. It's like I purposely hurt their feelings just so they'll never talk to me again. Like, I make sure that it's not ever a possibility. And Donald Trump destroyed my feeling of self-worth and my self-esteem when it was still growing, like when it just bloomed. It hadn't even had a chance to experience anything. I have only spoken to one therapist about this just recently, actually. for a long time, I just really just tried to forget about it. Just tried very hard. But I've been to counseling for other things, and I went to counseling for the previous relationship that I was sabotaging, and my counselor said something has happened to you where you need to deal with that. That's actually what kind of was like, He knew that there was something that had happened where I was sabotaging these relationships, but he said that it was my responsibility to deal with it, of course. This situation with Donald Trump has destroyed my self-esteem, and it's made it to where I feel like it's destroyed part of my life. I haven't, the only healthy relationship I've completely demolished. And I love to choose the dysfunctional ones that I know I can just push away. After what happened with him, I can't trust a man ever again. Thinking about it just makes me sick to my stomach. So when something so traumatic happens to someone that's so young, you never ever really get over it.
The early 1990s, would it be fair to call you or to characterize you as a real estate tycoon?
Yeah.
Trump Tower.
Yeah. Yeah. Very disturbing, right? Very disturbing. And Trump has actually been deposed. The clip that just popped there is actually a deposition that Donald Trump did, that he tried hard to avoid it getting out. And we will be visiting that at a later time. The focus today is for Katie Johnson, and her allegations against Donald Trump. So again, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through on all platforms. Shout out to everyone in the chat as well. This is something, again, I was really glad to see TMZ publish this story because, again, I have been reporting on this exact story for 10 years. Don't forget, it was this story that actually got me on Ren TV, a documentary that was actually made regarding Donald Trump that was aired in like 90 countries. And it's so unfortunate that they edited out, the portion regarding Katie, but they kept in the incidents with Stormy Daniels, with Stormy, right? The woman that sued Trump. And they kept it, you can video or you can record things all day long and be a part of a documentary, but once it gets into the editing room, they make decisions, and a lot of that was edited out. And so, like I said, it was because of my reporting on that, on this story with Katie, that Ren TV reached out and had me meet with them and sit down for 2 full days, as I, answered questions that they had, that again, that they developed into a documentary regarding Donald Trump. So I'm very proud of that because I absolutely despise predators of children. I despise them with all of my heart. And, but unfortunately, there are people out there that have a soft spot for these types of people. I don't understand it. There's people that this sort of thing is part of their religion. They use the Bible or the Quran or whatever, literature that they, whatever the case may be, to justify their acts of sexual inappropriateness with children. I mean, I just did a video yesterday, just last night, and confronted someone who feels that once a girl starts her period, she's a woman and her daddy can sell her off. There are people that literally believe this, and there are men that absolutely prefer a female that is young. I want you to hear this.
And on Epstein, Trump's comment to
I want you to hear this before we head out. I think it's important, and I think it's a perfect way to end this stream tonight.
New York Magazine in 2002 stands out today. He gave that comment around the time period covered in today's indictment. The president said this, quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with." It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. And on Epstein, Trump's comment to New York Magazine in 2002 stands out today. He gave that comment around the time period covered in today's indictment. The president said this, quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with." It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
Donald Trump is one of those people that just talks too much. And that is a prime example. I'm sure when he said that, Jeffrey Epstein was probably shitting himself, But, I mean, Donald Trump told the world with his own mouth that he likes girls on the younger side. Jeffrey Epstein, been friends for many years. Again, it's rumored that he met his current wife, Melania, through Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein attended his wedding to Marla Maples. He also attended the wedding when he married Melania. So it just kind of goes to show how good of friends that they were. And when men share, a secret of this type of this nature, it draws them closer together, because they both of them, both Epstein and Trump, shared this dirty, nasty secret, this dirty, nasty, they basically both had, they basically both enjoy, and I mean that, girls, not women. And then again, while we was reading the complaint, one as young as 12. It's not even just teenagers, meaning 13, 14, 15. The legal complaint clearly says even preteens were part of these sex parties that Epstein had for over a decade. These parties were so intense, he hired a party planner to help him plan these parties where men would engage in activities with girls, underage girls. Okay. It's difficult to even talk about these sorts of topics a lot of times, honestly. But listen, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. Before we get out of here, allow me to pay a few bills if you don't mind. Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
All right, guys. This week has gone by fast, hasn't it? Can you believe it? Tomorrow is Thursday. I mean, it's already Wednesday. And Thursday is right around the corner. So tomorrow, I do have a live stream scheduled titled Epstein Files. And we're going to start going through this data that the Department of Justice has been dropping. We're going to take a look at some of these photos, these videos, and some of these documents that has been dropped by the Department of Justice. So definitely be there tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. And again, please follow my official podcast platform. There is a QR code on your screen right now that will take you directly to my anchor.fm/LeakYou page, where you can find a link. Really, I'm on wherever you get your podcasts. You will find my podcasts as well. But that QR code will take you to my Anchor page so that you can get a direct link to whatever podcast platform you use, whether that's Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. Again, you can find me wherever you get your podcasts at. I appreciate each and every one of you. I will see you all on the next live stream. Until next time, everyone.
The judgment sentence that you are an asshole. The trial is over. Thank you, everybody.
Let's play a game. You have 10 seconds to take all your stuff and get out of my life. 10, 9, 8.
God bless you, motherfucker.
And you're really smart. Like really, really, really smart like I am.